Chapter 9. A Recording Angel. Jamai was anxious to read the story that the angel told his godfather. So anxious was he that he just realized he had shifted himself away from the middle of the floor, and his back was now resting against the rough, hard boards of the front door. His eye sockets felt heavy, and his head felt slightly numb. What time was it? Midnight? Or was it 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning? He still couldn't tell. The house was humming a melancholic, hypnotic silence. He most definitely should have been asleep by now. And yet, he was just too captivated by the synopsis, which further thwarted his ability to have some long overdue shut-eyes. And so, he finally decided to sit out the entire night silently cruising through his godfather's supernatural story. First, turning another page, and then focusing his eyes on the words, reading. Reader, I watched the feminine being Angel Saintiana, the recorder who was representing the villain manslayer, receive her signal from Angel Ginasco, the chief chronicler of Second Heaven, to speak. I stared in awe as she stretched her wings outwards and upwards, relaxed them at her sides again, then waved only a wing outward and upward again, and slowly brought it back down and curved the tip around her back. Then, with oratorical perfection, she began to speak. Distinguished audience, this first part of the Jamaican conflict resolver's epic story is one of great significance to all 3 departments of Earth Angel Services of Second Heaven, and especially to me. Now, as you've heard from Chief Chronicler, there are 3 main characters in the villain manslayer story. But here is a disclaimer. As per divine law, of which all angels are knowledgeable, but of which I ought to make mention for the sake of John Wong, the most recently translated human among us, each recording angel is assigned only one human from that human's conception to the final judgment. But there is a mystery to my task as recorder. The Godhead knows what that is, obviously, and Chief Chronicler knows about it, partially, and it is that I have been in charge of a very strange human case on Earth. And many of you will be more surprised by what I'm about to say. She paused, and the vast celestial audience was now submerged in a dense silence. Then she continued, The truth is, I am the recording angel for not one, but all 3 persons in the story that I'm about to tell you. She paused again, and the fluffy ocean of living creatures rustled with mutters and whispers. And I too was puzzled. Then the audience was quiet again as Angel Saintiana continued speaking. Okay, I know. How is that possible? You might be asking. But to get to Devailon, I'll first have to get past Mark, and then Joey. Needless to say, I'm not more special than any other angel. And you may ask Archangel Michael or Chief Messenger Gabriel about me, because both of them take orders directly from the Godhead. She paused, sighed, then added, It's just that this human, the villain manslayer, is more mysterious than most humans. So, just stay with me to the end of this story and you shall find out the mystery. Now the first chapter is titled, A Mark of Cruelty. She paused again, and this time there was a low rumble weaving through the audience, during which she nodded to Angel Genrev and me, then gently flopped her wings twice. And once again, the vast audience became reverentially hushed. And from here on, I began to feast on every word as she began to tell the highly anticipated first story of the event, saying, Mark Mackenzie cracked his 10-year-old eyelids open, feeling his face tightened and his heart battering his chest. He was lying on his right side in the fetal position on a cold floor inside a dark, musky place, completely naked. Shivering, he raised his head and looked to his left. Long crevices looking like thin, blurry lines framed what seemed to be a door, with the thickest orange horizontal line at the top revealing daytime, and maybe it was nearing sunset. He rose clumsily on his hands and knees to his feet, his belly growling, his throat dry and itchy, his breath hot and sour, and his thin body aching as though burnt. He barely touched his left side, yet he grimaced, wincing loudly, and he gasped when he felt sticky liquid on his fingers. His heart was palpitating, and his face became an overcast sky about to rain, and he now realized he was naked and bleeding inside a dark room. But where? Why? And by who? And where was his mom? And where was his little sister? He opened his mouth to call out, then froze. Because somewhere, someone was screaming and weeping and wailing like a mad woman on fire. His mom flashed across his mind. Then the screaming and weeping and wailing grew louder as the screamer and weeper and wailer got closer. Mark struggled to swallow. No, it wasn't a woman screaming and weeping and wailing. It was a siren. Police. Firefighters? An ambulance, maybe? Several seconds passed with him mostly sobbing. Then he heard boots clumping on a hard surface, advancing on the dark place where he was. He held his breath. What should he do? What should he not do? Then a deep male voice, not of his dad, nor of Grantley his stepdad, called from somewhere beyond the dark wall in front of him. "Mark, can you hear me? We're here to help you." Fear held his tongue hostage, and he was now breathing raspily, and he was trembling. The voice called again louder. "Mark, are you okay?" His eyes widened painfully, glancing around the darkness, his hands stretched out sideways as he fidgeted on spaghetti legs. The man called again. "Move back, away from the door. Stand back. A nice lady and I are coming in to get you and then take you to a safe place. We know your mom, Senilia. And Trevor, your dad. Stay back." "Okay." Mark stumbled backward closer to the door with light in its frame, and away from the strangers who knew his parents. He jolted as something banged on wood before him. Thin lines of light shot through cracks and hit the opposite wall. Another bang made brighter cracks in the wooden surface. Another bang made a gap. Then a much louder, larger gap without a bang was made by a large black boot. Then a man's head appeared in the bright, jagged gap of what he now realized was the front door. Of a room, but not his bedroom. Could this place be that other room? The one his dad beat his mom? No. Mark didn't want to think about that horrible thing he witnessed last year. He sniffed sporadically, about to cry. Then the crooked door swung inward, hanging on a weak hinge as blinding light flooded the room. Crouched in a far corner, he gasped and raised his hands, trying to shield his eyes, his teeth bare, and his heart drumming. He wanted to disappear and never be found again. He lowered his lanky hands slowly. Behind the handheld light were two silhouetted, erect forms of a woman and a man, towering in the doorway like superheroes. Mark's eyes adjusted to see the man, who he thought now didn't look like a police officer. The man held a big hammer in one hand and a short gun in the other, its muzzle pointing at the floor. The woman, who might have been his mom's age of 29, handed the man the large flashlight and sauntered towards him, glancing around the room. She was dressed nicely, and there was a green card with white words on it pinned to her dark blouse. She then locked her eyes on him, her empty hands stretched forward, and she spoke again softly. "It's okay, Mark. Your mom knows why we are here to get you. Just try to relax. We are your friends, the conflict resolvers. Would you like to be a conflict resolver too?" Conflict resolvers? Mark pondered. They actually looked like superheroes. And for a couple seconds, he thought about being a superhero too. But he wasn't the least content being with these two. Angel Saintiana stopped speaking, and the audience sounded disturbed. And I, John Wong, stopped breathing, and I could hear my own heart drumming. And Jamai clapped the book shut, his heart racing, and his mind disheveled. Something was eerily wrong. He was locked up in a back room reading a story about his godfather, who, as a boy, was taken to heaven while being physically abused in a back room by his dad, and who was there in heaven listening to a story about a boy who, too, was left to die in a back room. It was all too strange that Jamai, John Wong, and Mark Mackenzie all had similar bad experiences in their homes on Rage Avenue. Jamai swallowed his apprehension. He needed answers, and he needed them fast.